Welcome to Defense in Focus, the podcast that deals with unpacking the inner workings of the South African National Defence Force and the broader defense landscape. The SANDF uses visual communication to communicate its messages to the public. We all have seen those informational graphics or posters on billboards, TV, and or social media. Those have been crafted to build trust, promote careers, and show the work that the SANDF does out there. I'm your host, Nompumelelo Mahlangu. In today's episode, we'll be talking about visual communications, and we are joined by Visual Communications Manager, Mr. Abraham Johannes Holtzhausen, simply known as Chappy. He is a veteran of 35 plus years, and he'll be sharing with us about this versatile field that he is in of visual communication. Welcome to the podcast. May you kindly tell us a little bit about yourself and how you joined the military?
Thank you, Mpumi. It's great to be here. I was brought up in Orkney in the northwest. I went to school there, and then I went to Potchefstroom University. I did my first degree there. And then I came to Pretoria. I studied fine art in Pretoria. And then at that time in our history, I had to do 2 years of military service, and that's how I actually landed up in the Defence Force. After my 2 years, I left and I worked at PACT. It was the theatre here in Pretoria. And then the colonel that was in charge of shows and exhibitions then called me and asked if I don't want to come back and assist them with visual communication. And at that time, my salary at the theatre was about 600 Rand a month, and the Defence Force said, no, we'll give you 800 Rand. So that was wonderful. It was quite a jump in my salary at that time. And I started in visual communication. I thought I would stay about 5 years, and the 5 years became 35 years. And it's a wonderful experience. I've learned a lot about myself, but also a lot about the Defence Force and my passion, visual communication.
Amazing. Now, how did the name Chappy come about?
Oh, that's a family nickname.
Okay.
And it's not Chappy, it's Y. My great-grandfather was, I think he was 28 when he was completely grey. So they called him Old Chap. Mm-hmm. And Old Chap became Chappy. And I'm, I think, the fourth or the fifth one with that name. So all the AJ Holtzhausens in our family, or most of them, they call us Chappy. Oh, so that's where it comes from.
That's very interesting. Now, what is visual communication and why is it important, especially within the SANDF?
You know, visual communication is an amazing field. And it's a wonderful way of communicating to people visually. So that's everything that you look at, everything that you can see. Even type can be visual on what we design and what we do. It's also a wonderful tool to cross barriers. Visually, we can talk to people even if they don't understand the language. Visually, we can tell a story. Visually, we can really put effort and emphasis on a specific thing. I remember way back when there was those floods in Mozambique, and there was a beautiful photo of one of our soldiers that assist this woman in a tree and save them. And that photo, to me, that's why we love visual communication, because in history there's thousands of images. That's extremely important in the history of communication. Even if you think of Nelson Mandela when he was coming out of jail, that photo was iconic. There's also that terrible photo of the girl running in Vietnam in that time of the Vietnam War that will stay with us forever. So there's so many things that you can do visually and communicate visually. So that's why it's extremely important.
Okay. Now, since you are the visual communications manager, what makes up a team of visual communication?
Well, I am extremely honored and blessed with wonderful people, wonderful creative people, because that's the one thing that you need is creativity when we communicate visually, because you could compete with so many images out there. There's millions and millions of images that you see every single day of your life. So to get a space in the world where we can communicate the Department of Defense or the SANDF and whatever we need to tell visually, you need a very good team. And that's graphic designers, it's fine artists, it's audio-visual people. There's such a lot of people that make up this team. I've even got a carpenter that assists us to build certain things. Sound and lighting, that's part of it, because the lighting, when we do exhibitions or functions, the lighting plays also a visual role in create atmosphere and all of that. So it's a wonderful space in where we can actually do whatever we want to do, and we can communicate so much more than just a written word.
Interesting. Now, how does visual branding influence the way the public perceives us as a military organization?
Okay, firstly and foremostly, we are our brand. Our brand is extremely important. So, the Department of Defense and the SANDF logo, that makes us who we are. The other thing, and before I get to the logos and our emblems and our corporate identity, each and every soldier that's in uniform is a billboard, is a poster, is a message. So it's so important, and we the police and maybe correctional service, we've got that luxury of having a uniform. And that uniform tells a story. So each and every person, and that's extremely important, that each and every person understand that, because when you get out of your house and you get into a military car, because that's also part of our branding, or you've got a uniform on, people perceive you as that. And if you do anything wrong, people will immediately jump onto that. So there's a huge responsibility on our uniform members to really know that whatever you do, it's in the public eye, and it's like a walking billboard. So you're part and parcel of that the visual corporate identity. So, and that makes it sometimes also very difficult, because people can criticize us very easily. So it's a huge responsibility. So we can put up the most beautiful photos and it can tell our stories, but if our soldiers that's in uniform don't really portray that, then we're in trouble.
Okay. And what is so important about visual branding that sets the SANDF and the Department of Defense apart from the rest?
We are also in this situation where we've got actually two corporate identities. We've got the Department of Defense, that's our coat of arms, and then we've got the SANDF logo, and we've got the permission that we can do that. So again, we're quite special in that. Your corporate branding tells everybody who you are, what you stand for. There's symbolism in our logos. And each and every service and division got also their own logos that we need to communicate to people, because people talk very easily about the army, and we're not just the army. We are the South African National Defence Force with different services and divisions. So we've got the army, the Air Force, the Navy, and military health, and then also in some divisions is log and HR and defense intelligence. So those things are extremely important, and it makes it easier for us if we communicate to use the co-branding as well. So we say we're under the South African National Defence Force, but we also fall under or the Army or the Air Force and so on. So And that's our, when you go to any parade or any exhibition or anything, that's the first thing we want people to see is our branding, to say that this is the Defence Force. We are proudly Defence Force, and this is who we stand for, what we stand for, and who we are.
Okay. Now, during COVID-19, the SANDF used the power of visuals to communicate the messaging around social distancing and other COVID-19 regulations and stuff like that. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, that was quite an interesting one, and we needed to be very, very careful on how we do this, because we don't want to scare people, but we also need to get the message through that we are here to assist, we are here to support you. So luckily we've got some wonderful photographers in the Defence Force, and they went out and give us some images that we could use to tell people, but we are here not to scare you, we are here to assist you. We are here as a force of good to really help you and to enforce sometimes, and also to assist the government to get to the objectives. The same with any other, there's floods, border control. There's a lot of things that we do that people don't really always know. And it's our responsibility to let people know, but this is what we do. This is how we work. This is what is important. And that's why we are there for you. You know, there's such a lot of misinformation out there, and that we need to tell our story, and we need to do it honestly and visually strong, that people can relate to that.
Interesting. Now, you're saying you've been in visual communication for 35 plus years.
Yes.
That's very interesting. Now, what are some of your career highlights?
Oh, there's a few. I think every time I think the first one for me that I will always cherish was and it was a sad one because it was about HIV and AIDS. And at that time, in the 90s, it was really a taboo subject, and we couldn't really, and we needed to make people aware of it. And we needed to get our leaders to support this. And that was one of the best projects I've ever worked on. And it took about 4 years to do all of this. And we spoke with so many people, and we designed the most incredible logo for Masibambisane was the logo, the word that we use for that campaign. It was absolutely amazing, and how we change lives. And that's important to me, that visual communication can change how you look at things. It can change how you feel about things. It can change your perception of specific stuff. I know at the shows that we do, the dietitians got like this board with how many sugars in Coca-Cola and in certain drinks, and people can't believe it. And that's the power of visual communication, because you can see it. You can see the amount of sugar and the bottle next to it, the Coke or whatever. And that's how important that is. And we can tell good stories. There's beautiful images where we build bridges in the rural areas. And that picture tells you everything. You don't even have to say something. And the joy of those people that use that bridge afterwards. So it's so important that we could communicate visually, and against all the negative images out there, we can make a difference, and we can tell our story. And sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes we use images that's not so nice, that's terrible. If you look at the rhinos and the dehorning of the rhinos and the killing of the rhinos, and we try to stop that. So sometimes there's also power in the image that shocks. So, and that's also the nice thing, that you need to decide on how do you do this. The other thing is that that was a highlight for me, was when Nelson Mandela became president, and how we worked through all of that, and to make it really a special day, and his first parade as the commander-in-chief. That to me was very, a very nice project to work on. And then, of course, each and every exhibition that we do, because I love that we've got powerful images, and we in the lucky position that we've got amazing tools. We've got tanks and that other people don't have, so we can play around and
That's
we can use
beautiful.
that, and we go to the border and we go to places, and we're on the sea and we're in the air and we're on land, and it's amazing to use all of that beautiful images to promote what we do and why we're there and why we are a defense force for the people. So that, I think that makes, that's to me is wonderful. If I walk around at the exhibitions and I listen to the public and I get positive feedback to say, oh, but the defense force are still actually something that we need to care about. There's something here. They are actually know what they are doing. And that to me is important. There's a lot of negativity. And I don't like to focus on the negativity. That's why we are in visual communication, to even communicate sometimes the difficult stuff.
Wonderful. Now, speaking of shows and exhibitions, why do you think visual communication is important when it comes to recruitments, exhibitions, and career expos as well as shows?
Look, it's one of the nice things to do to promote ourselves firstly, and where you get your logo and your corporate identity out there that people can start to relate to that. But the other amazing thing is when we do these shows and exhibitions, is there's also one-on-one communication. So you've got a strong image behind you. You've got your hardware and information, but there's also the people. And when we're there and we communicate to the public, we show them that we're actually there for you. And this is what we can do. We are well trained. We can do certain things. Yes, there's certain problems and financial stuff, but we can still do what we need to do. And we're here for you. And that's important. Also to tell people, but in the Defense Force, we've got so many careers. It's a world in the world, in the South African context. Is there a world that we've got graphic designers, we've got chefs, we've got all sorts of medical professionals, we've got everything you can think of, actually. And I think that's important, that people also understand and that also is important, that we get that out to the people.
Okay. And for any young person that's probably watching this and they're interested in joining visual communication, what can you say are some of the requirements and what advice can you give them?
Well, I'm a good example of, I thought I will stay for 5 years, and here's 35 years, because it's such an interesting world, and it's such a wonderful creative space for creative people. But in the Defense Force and visual communication, it's good to do PR, it's good to do communication. There's a space for sound and lighting, there's a space for graphic design, for fine art. So if you're creative, my father always thought, oh, he studied art, what is he going to do? And
Here you are.
35 years later, and I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. It is, and we've got a wonderful canvas that we can work on. There's an amazing place, and you meet some interesting people, and also some very creative people. And I believe that even if you're a soldier, if you're a sailor or what, we all need some creativity to get through the day. We all need some creativity to understand what we do. And we also need to communicate internally and externally. So the communication part of in any organization is extremely important. So so there's a place for creative people as well in the Department of Defense.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. and sharing your beautiful experience of visual communication. I'm pretty sure the people who are watching this have learned a thing or two about visual communication, especially within the SANDF.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here and to share my love and my passion for visual communication and the Defence Force.
There you have it, South Africa. In today's episode, we focused on visual communication and how it factors within the SANDF. Till next time, stay informed. I'm your host, Nompumelelo Mahlangu.